You're tuned in to Nice-ish, the Carnival-specific podcast that addresses chat-worthy topics straight off the Caribbean social scene. It's your one-stop spot to get all the information you need to be successful in this carnival-chasing lifestyle. You'll be filled with knowledge and getting updates from me, Sha, and other professionals in the field of Bacchanal. It's time to get nice. What up, y'all? It's your girl, Sha here. I'm back presenting the Carnival Newbie Crash Course Part 2, and I'm happy to do it. I'm happy to give you more information. As a disclaimer, this information is being provided to you because questions have been asked of me, and I think it's only right that I answer them because, again, I want you to be as prepared as possible for your carnival experiences. Another thing that I want you guys to keep in mind is that the information that I'm sharing is only from my experiences. I think there are a number of other individuals out there that you can gain information from, but their experiences are going to be very different from my experiences. So when doing your research, make sure that you are getting information from various sources. And I think I may have mentioned this before in one of my other podcasts that, FET personalities and carnival personalities are and can be very different from one another. And I think it's important that you find an influencer and you find individuals and carnival veterans who mesh with your type of carnival personality, right? Like for me, if I'm looking for information from someone, I know that I'm not going to go to a stush person, right? I know that I'm not going to go to someone who is going to be on the side all the time. Like I need people who are going to be in the mix. I need front of the stage people, in the middle of the FET people, right? So my friends, I joke all the time and I'm like, listen, if you ever looking for me in a FET, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be in the front. Unless it's like a concert, because I don't really care for concert like FETs. But if music is involved and it's just straight DJs jamming, playing, and best believe if dance hall is playing somewhere, I'm gonna be up front, Jenna bouncing and Willie bouncing and whatever other bounce and whatever other dances that there are, 6:30 and whatever. So I just wanted y'all to keep that in mind because I think it's important. I don't want you to just go off of my word, right? I haven't been everywhere. I haven't done everything. I haven't played with every band. And there are some things that I don't know, right? As much of a veteran as I am, I am not the end all be all. I am not the only source of information. So make sure that you do your due diligence and get out there and do some real research with other people. All right, so now that I've got that out the way, let's dive into this content. So one of the questions that came in asked, how do you start planning? How do you know where to stay in each country? So I think those are both great questions. And I think it starts with the fact that you need to figure out when you're able to travel based on your lifestyle, what you do, who you have to take care of. Look at the calendar for the year and determine the months and the dates that you are going to be able to step out of your normal routine and go and have some carnival fun. So for me, for example, I am in the field of education. I'm an education administrator. So I know that I can travel at the end of December for winter break. I know that there is going to be some type of spring vacation in March or April. I know that summers kind of work for the most part. While I still have to be at work, it's not as demanding as the school year. I know that the end of August and the first week of September are no travel times. And then I also know that somewhere in the fall, I'm going to need a break. So those are the kind of things that I keep in mind for my travel schedule. So whatever carnivals fit into that I want to go to, I'll make them work. And what doesn't, and I really want to go to, I'll figure out a way to make it work. But at the end of the day, I'm making sure that the timing matches up and that my wallet matches up. And we'll talk about that a little later. So figure out the times on the calendar for that year of when you're able to travel. And I say do that in advance because you really, really, really want to try to plan as much in advance as possible. So now that you know when you can travel or when you want to travel, look at the Carnival calendar, hint, hint, Global Carnivalist 2020 Carnival calendar to see, or whatever year it might be, and see which carnivals are aligned with the times that you want to take off. And from there, begin your research, right? So reach out to myself or other influencers for information. If you know for certain that you're ready to make moves on the carnival, all right, then cool. Then we can move on to the next step, which is then securing your flights and securing your lodging. And depending on which month, that might be in, you might have to wait some time because it might not be an ideal time to purchase your flight, or it might be the right time. So I recommend putting flight alerts on. So I use Hopper. I think other people use Google Flights as well. Kayak is also an option. And it basically lets you know, and you can put the alerts on for like a daily notification, and it says, okay, it's not really an ideal time to buy. You should wait. Or it might tell you, okay, this is the time to buy. At any rate, you should kind of be prepared. If you're a credit card person, it might not be, as bad, and you can be ready. But if you're someone who doesn't have or hold a credit card, then you're like, you're buying things out of pocket, out of your bank account. And so that might be something that you would have to, be disciplined about, put the money aside, and then make sure that you're ready to pay when that alert comes. But it also tells you around which time you should be buying. So that kind of gives you more guidance as to when to be ready with your money. So you're setting up the flight alerts. And then the other thing to do would be, one of the questions that you should be asking influencers, if you don't already know, or if you're not doing research on that country or that area's carnival, is find out like where's the ideal place to get lodging for that event. You want to make sure that wherever you stay is within a decent distance from majority of the fetes, and then a decent distance from where the carnival is going to take place. It's important that you are staying near the action, right? Staying near the areas that you'll be in attendance. I don't normally worry too much about airport because it's only like a beginning of the trip situation and an end of the trip situation that you have to worry about. I don't spend too much time kind of trying to figure out if there's multiple airports, which one you come from. But for the most part, you only have one option. And then when you're thinking about which type of lodging would be best for you, I think number one, it depends on your numbers. If you choose to travel with the group, if you're not really traveling with the group, or it's just you and a friend, then that kind of makes things a little more simpler. But it really does depend on the amount of people that you'll be traveling with or lodging with. The other thing that you need to think about when it comes to that is how you're going to be paying for the lodging. As I mentioned before, you have people who, deal with credit cards, and then you have other people who are really paying out of pocket directly and immediately. So initially, when I go on a trip to a country or to a carnival for the first time, I like to stay in hotels because you have access to individuals from that country that are working as staff that you get to see every day and ask questions, and they are there to assist you with whatever you need help with. So I like having that on-demand support. However, once I get familiar with the place, or if the country is like small enough, or if I feel like, everything's in such a small knit community, I think I'll be okay staying at an Airbnb, then I'll do that. Or also, if I'm staying with a large number of people for the first time, for example, like I did with St. Lucia, there was about 10 of us in a very large house or condo. It was beautiful, but I wouldn't have done that really if it was just me in a smaller group, because it was just, it was just different. So I think you have to think about that. So if you're going the Airbnb route, that's more attractive to individuals who don't, they may not be credit card holders like myself. Like, I'm not big on credit cards. So when you see me at a carnival, like I'm paying up front, right? So something to keep in mind there is that, you just have to be ready to put down your deposit for the Airbnb and then move on from there. The thing with hotels, majority of them are asking for you to put a credit card on file. And I think nowadays people are, or not people, but hotels are becoming more open to using debit cards as down to put down, but then sometimes it might take something off your card immediately that might be more than, an Airbnb might charge you. So again, something to keep in mind. A question that tickled me was, how can some of y'all afford Carnival year after year? Who's your sponsor and how can I sign up? So, Honey Dip, I'm going to tell you right now, Shah Shamir does not have a sponsor. And I am only speaking for myself, okay? And I have no sponsor, all right? But I'm accepting bids. If anybody out there wants to holler at your girl and support and, take her to different carnivals without me having to pay them back in any type of way, let me know. But yeah, so again, I think it really all starts with planning. And I also want you guys to keep in mind that we don't know what everybody does for a living. Like, I shared what I did, that's no big secret. But you don't know who's out on the road. You have people who might have great jobs, they might have high paying 6-figure careers that allow them the opportunity to travel as much as they do. You might have people who have sugar daddies who are, willing to offer these lavish experience to month after month and year after year. But then on the other hand, I think you also have individuals who just are great at planning, and they're great at being frugal and finding ways to do what they want on a budget that still makes them happy and not make them, don't put them in debt at the end of the day. So those are the things that we need to think about. Or it's not that they might be getting money, it's not that they have a great career. It could just, maybe they won the lottery, maybe maybe they had a trust fund. We don't know. Or maybe it's none of those things and they're just out here struggling. So it really varies. And the one thing that I can say is that you can attend carnivals and save pennies, and it's all because of discipline. So there are a lot of things that take place that you don't really need to participate in. So you don't have to play mass, you don't have to drink, you don't have to go to every fete, you don't have to stay in lavish hotels, you don't have to get your makeup done, you don't have to do the most. And I think that's what it comes down to. And I kind of think like that's where I am with a lot of my travels. Like, that's my perspective. Like, I can go places, and yeah, maybe I can go to a lot of places, but I can go to a lot of places, but I don't have to do a lot of things every time, right? For each of those trips. I am very selective in how I go about planning my trips. But you have other people who are not like that. And that's okay, because they choose and you choose to go about your plannings based on your life and your style. And I think that's the only thing that matters. Do what you want. A next question that came in: how do you convert money? Is it necessary? All right, great question. So normally when I travel, the goal, which doesn't always work out, the goal is for me to go to an ATM when I'm in the US, preferably my bank of choice, so that there aren't any fees, and then hold it. And once I get to whatever country it is that I'm going for Carnival, I will exchange the money that I have for the currency in that country. I'm gonna tell you all right now that because of life and whatever else be happening on the day of travel, I'm thinking about everything else. I hardly remember to go to the damn ATM to get the money. And then it also depends on like when payday fell, right? So if I knew that I was getting paid once I arrived, I probably wasn't going to go to the ATM anyway. So it really depends. My bank aligns with Scotiabank, which is a popular bank in the Caribbean. So what I like to do is, because they have that connection, I don't believe that I get international transaction fees if I use a Scotiabank. So I usually just wait until I land. I go to a Scotiabank ATM close to where I am on that country, and then it gives me the currency of that country. So that's how I go about it. I think the only time that I exchange money at the airport is in Trinidad. And sometimes, I remember when I went to Jamaica and I stayed at Knutsford Court, the Knutsford Court staff, they did currency conversions as well. So when you went down to the main lobby, it would show what the conversion rate was for that day. And I believe you had like a maximum amount that you could convert each day. So I did that there as well. But other than that, I normally just use ATMs. You don't have to convert your money depending on where you are. It is easier if you convert it. Some places like Barbados, where it's a 1-to-1 conversion rate, is a lot easier to do the math. And that's why I used to love going to BIM, because I hate math. But I was just like, oh, 1-to-1, I got this. Boop, boop. It's very simple. But then when you hit Jamaica and Trinidad, you're like, I'm not doing this math in my head. Or like, I mean, there is an app. I have an app. I have the currency converter app that I keep on my phone. I normally like to change the money because I like to keep things simple. And you definitely don't change all of it at one time, right? Do not change all of your money as soon as you arrive. Go based off of how your days are going and see, okay, you know what? Let me just convert $100, and then I'll see what I need, and if necessary, I'll increase. So I always love to go back home with money. I feel like I've accomplished something. So definitely just convert your money in little chunks, and then you don't have to spend your time trying to figure out how you're going to use the rest of the money. Because I know I'm always like at the airport, like, okay, what can I buy with this? And then you don't want all that leftovers. I do like having leftovers for trips though, like when I'm going on trips, because it just feels good. Like, oh, I got money for this. Yes. But also, I don't know, it just takes like some weight off. You're like, okay, I could do something. I could do something here. But chances are I'm probably going to forget, and you're probably going to forget too. Like, oh, damn it. I left that JA currency down there. I left it at home. I could have used that. And then you kicking yourself the whole trip. Like, I had $5. I had $5 I could have used. Anyway, all right. I digress. So another follower asked, how do you not overpack? Well, I want to first make a disclaimer that I am team carry on. And what that means is I very rarely check a bag in. I don't think it's really necessary, depending on, of course, the length of time that I'm going to be in another country and what I'm doing. I think it all depends, and I'm very, very, very strategic with how I go about planning my carnivals, but I think it certainly, the process varies by person. But I will say in general, like, to not overpack, I think the only solution is making sure that you're packing based on your itinerary, and your itinerary is inclusive of your travel to and from the airport, what your fets look like, and you also have to keep in mind what kind of fets those are. And then packing based on the downtime that you have on your calendar, the areas where you're not really sure what you'll be doing, but you know you'll be doing something, and whatever it may be. So, but those are like the key things, how many hours you're going to be getting of sleep and so on and so forth. I think you really have to, if you want to be a simple packer, you have to think minimal. You have to think minimalist, right? So base it off of your FET list. So example, when I start packing, there's already an existing Excel sheet, right? So on that Excel sheet, I have the days that I'm going to be in attendance. Under each day, I have whatever the activity is and the time that starts. And then where there isn't information, I will like pencil in what I think I'll be doing, even if I'm not certain. If you know that you want to do something in that country before you go, and it requires like a reservation. So say you want to go on a rum tour and you look online and you see that the tours are from 12 to 6 and you have free time in that time, you look and see whether or not you need a reservation, you call, you put it down, and then that way you know that is something that you are doing. So you have to be, you have to put some work in, or if you just kind of want it to be chill and you want to explore the island on your own, then put that in there. But you have to know that things do not they don't always go as planned at times, right? So for me, when I look at my outfits, my goal is to ensure that I can keep my footwear down to a certain amount and my accessories as well. So I don't mind if majority of my stuff matches throughout that trip. That's okay. It can be a theme, right? So if I have 6 outfits and 3 outfits can be worn with brown sandals and 3 outfits can be worn with black sandals, great. Or if all my outfits can be worn with said brown sandals that I have, great. I'm not about to bring an excessive amount of shoes with me on a trip. Again, but that's just me. If you have to, go all out and do all this and or whatever, that's you and that's okay. But for the people who are trying to not overpack, that's the kind of thinking that you have to have. I think I'm fashionable, right? I think I dress well, but I'm not a diva. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not going to be nitpicky about certain things. I want to make sure that I'm presenting myself well, just because that's just how I am. Like, I'm going to be flying whatever I wear, but I'm not going to, like, I'm not here to show out, right? I'm trying to be cute. I'm trying to be comfortable. And this is how I do that. I know that heels are not, for me, heels take up space in the bag. Heels, pumps, whatever, boots. And that's one reason why I shied away from wearing big boots on the road, because guess what? Those took up space in my bag as well. So I'm thinking about this when I'm picking a costume, when I'm, picking, outfits for fets and picking Juve outfits. Like, you have to think, okay, you know what? Nope, that's going to be too much for my bag. How can I be cute and be a minimalist at the same time? I think the other thing that comes into play when planning what your packing looks like is hair products. And I know now that I don't have hair, like that I'm bald, and I used to use the clippers. I'm like, oh, I don't want to lug these clippers in my luggage now. This is another thing that I now have to worry about. So now I'm like, oh, you know what? Let me just pack razors instead. But then you're packing razors, then you're like, oh, I need the cream, but I got to find the cream in a travel size. So it is a lot. I'm not going to front, it is a lot. And I think what would be helpful is if I did a pack with me video that I can show you guys and ladies, like how and what I do. But you also have to consider how long you're going to be there. So on average, when I travel, it's 5 days. I think the last time when I went to St. Lucia, that was like a 10, 11-day trip, and I still did it. I did it check a bag. I was successful, but I suffered in the end because I had a lot of shit that I brought back and that I didn't account for having on the way back. And my neck and my shoulder hurt because one of the carry-ons that I had was a shoulder bag, and I stuffed the shit out of that and I carried it, right? But then what happened was our flights got delayed and delayed, and then I ended up overnighting and carrying that bag for 24 and a half, 24 more hours plus than I had originally intended. And my body suffered. Like I cried real tears a couple of nights because of the pain that I caused myself from carrying that. So when I could have just paid a mere $30 to check the bag, to check the bag back to the States. But anyway, I digress. But that's just a thing. You also have to think about the return from Carnival when you're packing. And I'm glad that I told that story because you are now going to have additional things. So imagine if you played with a Juve band, then you were attending Carnival in a country that has 2 days of road. So now you have a costume that you are probably taking back. Everybody want to bring their feathers back. You have like Shri cups that were now all together in the goodie bag and so many treats. And then you have the things that you wanted to get for your coworker and your mom and the t-shirt and the souvenirs. It's like you have to remember to leave space for when you come back because best believe you're going to have something back. Don't forget a rum. Right? Everybody be looking for white Henny. Everybody be looking for white Hennessy on the trip back, trying to figure out who has the cheapest white Henny. So keep all of that in mind. And now we move on to someone who wanted to know if I have costume advice for the fluffies. I don't know that it's fluffy specific. I think the same way that anyone will go about, trying to order a costume would be the same for my fluffies. So one of the questions that I think that you should ask yourself is the costume going to highlight the features that you love about yourself? So is it going to make that ass pop? Are the sisters going to be sitting up and jiggling nice? Like, those are things that, you need to know. Like, how's it going to make your legs look? Do they have those ridiculous looking straps that come all the way from your ankles to your thighs that are going to make it look like, what are those things? Those pretzel dogs at Auntie Anne's. You don't want it to look like that. So you have to think about what makes sense for you and what's going to accentuate everything that you have to offer on the road. Also, is it going to complement your complexion? I think there's a lot of times where I look at costumes and I'm like, oh, this would have looked so much better on a person with this complexion, or this darker color would have looked so nice on a person with light complexion. I think they don't do a good job sometimes at matching costumes with bodies. You know what I'm saying? If you are, someone on the lighter side and not so, you may be more pale than you have like a rich complexion, I don't want to see you in a yellow costume. As much as it might be your favorite color, I think, maybe this royal blue costume might be for you. But then, you don't want to be muted out, right? Like, I remember, I give a lot of anecdotes. I remember being in 7th grade. Now, me, this dark-skinned young lady, about 100 and, I don't know, 15 pounds. Probably just came back from Turks, so I'm looking extra, extra dark. And I had the nerve to buy a lime green oversized bubble jacket with a hood and wear a lime green bandana to go along with it. I'll post a picture one day. And it's just like, why would you get this bright ass color just looking like a burnt raisin in the middle of this lime? It just looked crazy. So let's not do that. Let's think about the costume. And I really don't think that it is specific to like weight. Like the advice that I'm giving, I don't think it's specific to anybody's weight. What do you like? What do you love about the costume? What do you love about yourself? Like, I know, like for me, I'm just like, listen, the wire bra needs to sit right. If it looks like it's not going to do it justice, I don't really want it. And I don't really like, regular bras. And I think that's another thing. You need to own what you like. My advice for anybody is get what you like. You don't have to play in the same section as your friend. If your friend want to play in the fish section, let them go play over there. If you want to be in the shark section, baby shark, do 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 do. If you want to be in the shark section, go and be in the shark section and get what you like. Do what you want, get what suits your body, get what you're going to be comfortable in. If that's a monokini, then get the monokini. And if you have questions, if there's information that's not on the page that you want to know, just ask the band. Find the email address for the people in charge of costumes or the band. Find their Instagram DMs. Find them on Twitter and just ask. And if they want your business, which they should because it's money, they should be answering you. Customer service is everything to me. I will choose a band for great customer service than vibes, because guess what? I can always storm, but I can't get quality customer service over there. Okay? Just, think about that. What are the best shoe options? Okay. Again, I think this is something that depends on each person. All people are different. All feet are also created differently. You have people who have flat feet. You have people who have arches. You have people who are pigeon-toed. You have people who are bow-legged like me. So like my shoe is kind of like going to one side every now and then. My shoe leans to the right or to the left, right? I have people who say, oh, I could wear a platform or I could wear heels on the road. And I'm just like, that's great. I'm so happy for you. I can't do that. As sexy as it looks and as much as I wish that I could, it's not for me. So guess who's not going to be out on the road in nobody's heels? But if it is a heel, I'll do a thick heel. And I mean like a low heel, at least 2 inches wide in width for the base of the heel. And it can't be more than 3 inches or 2.5 inches high. I want to be as flat as possible, but just to have a little heel to look, give it a little more sexiness. So again, it depends on a lot of things. And then you have to figure out whether or not style is most important to you when you're going to be on the road or when you're going to be out, or whether or not comfort is more important. Me, I choose comfort, because if I'm miserable and I look dope as shit, it's not going to matter. My spirit is jacked up. So I need to be comfortable. And if that means that I'm wearing a pair of Chucks, if it means that I'm wearing, like whatever it is, that's okay. Because at the end of the day, I'll be happy. And I don't need full body pictures. I'll just take 3/4 and the full headshots and I'll be good. I'll just cut my feet off. Or I'll stand behind something. But, that's what it comes down to. I need to be comfortable. I need to be happy. In order for me to be happy, guess what? I'm going to be comfortable and I'm going to choose the stuff that works for me. I'll style it out. I'll make sure everything else is on point and y'all don't have to worry about my feet. But also, one of the best ways and the only way that I learned is from trial and error. I've worn boots. And while boots are great, boots are super flat. And I know that, I need more than this. So now I have learned that I need to get insoles, and not any kind of insoles. I love memory foam insoles. Other people love gel insoles. You know why? Because it depends on their feet and they get them for what helps their feet. Gel insoles hurt my feet. I don't know if that's because maybe like my foot is still super soft at the bottom, or, that might not even be a good thing. I don't know. But other people might hate memory foam. They might need something a little firmer, and that's okay. So trial and error. You can kind of work your way up if you want to start from sneakers, get them designed, yes, it is going to be more of an investment or a DIY project for yourself, but that's okay, I think. Then work your way up to a boot. Maybe it's a bootie with a little bit of heel, and then knee highs, maybe, right? I tend to love thigh highs because they are very, very, very handy for putting things inside. And I'll talk about that when I talk about what you should be bringing on the road, which is coming up next. You have to think about what your day is going to look like. Normally, you're waking up early. Some of y'all are getting your makeup done, and you're preparing yourself for this wonderful experience. And so, one of the things that you do, the first or the last thing that you should be doing is putting your wristband on for the day. And that wristband is going to be the thing that gets you your food, that gets you your all-inclusive drinks on the road from sun up to sundown, and just making sure that is your all access pass. So then you get out on the road and you see all of these trucks. And for those of you who don't know, this is just going to be a mini lesson in, what to expect. You have various music trucks that are going to be within each band. There could be 3 music trucks in a band, and a music truck is a physical truck, and it has the DJs that are on there. Tons and tons of speakers are connected to each other to be in the back of the truck, and that is where you dance behind. So there can be 1 or more, any amount of music trucks behind there, depending on how many the band want to have. And then you have drink trucks, also known as bars, and these bars are also moving trucks that are just created in a way to have a countertop, and it has the bar staff back there, and in the middle of the bed are all the spirits and non-alcoholic beverages, and the band usually provides you with a cup or a mug for the road, and you take that, or a lot of you nowadays, I think the trend is everybody just kind of bringing their own on their groups or whatever that might be for their brands, and et cetera, et cetera. You would take your cup, make sure that you open it up so that it's ready for them to pour the drink in. You hand them your cup. You keep an eye on the person who you gave your cup to. Tell them what you want. Normally you're going to have to be yelling because, again, you are surrounded by people, you're surrounded by music trucks, and you got to know what you want and yell. So you got your drink trucks. There should be more than one of them. There usually are, but again, it depends on the country you're in and how big the band is, how big the carnival is. Sometimes you'll have a food truck. There won't always be a food truck. It depends on the band. But if you do, it's the same thing, same concept. People are on there. They might ask you what you want. You might not have an option of what you want. They might just be handing out one of 2 things or just one thing. There are also bands that have smaller carts going around handing out treats. So they might be popsicles or chips or fruit and little snacks, or there might be smaller drink trucks that are rolling around so that people don't have to go to the bar. So there might be like signature rums, on that little cart that someone else is pushing. So there's different ways, and it's very, very, very nice. It's a great experience because you just feel like you're being catered to all day. At least that's what it should feel like if you're in a band that knows they shit. How can we forget the wee wee truck? The wee wee truck is the potty truck. That's where you would go if you needed to use the restroom while on the road. Ladies don't have it great. We can't just whip it out and go into a bush or whatever. I mean, actually we can, but in costume, not something that we really wanted to do. Maybe at Ambush or something, at Juve, no problem getting down and dirty. But we're talking about being in full costume. So the wee wee trucks also depend on your band, depends on how much they want to spend and what's available in that country for them to have. But I have been in wee wee trucks that look better than hotel bathrooms. Like, I'm talking marble floors and countertops. It's just, it can be a very, very nice experience. And then you just have rolling porta potties, same old green and blue shits that you see anywhere else. But for the most part, there haven't been those for pretty mass carnival experiences. So just make sure that you're carrying like as less as possible. Think about your bathroom plan before you leave the hotel. Like, okay, I'm gonna move the stocking to the side, and then I'm gonna squat down just this much, and then just make sure that I have, my handy wipes with me, and make sure that I don't pull my stocking up too hard. So now that I have a rip in my tights for the next half of the road. Okay, I got it. Yes, that's the shit that girls think about when we have to go to the bathroom. It's a lot. It's a lot. And then the freaking costumes are getting skimpier and skimpier. So you're like, where am I even going to hide the tight thing? Okay, maybe I just don't wear tights anymore. I digress. All right, so now that I've broken that down, and now that I've broken down like exactly what you're going to be doing on the road, you're going to be dancing the entire time. You're going to be taking pictures. You're going to be interacting with people. You're going to be whining on people. You're going to be doing so much. You're going to be running back and forth so much. So what do you carry? What do you really have to carry on the road? I mean, again, it depends on who you are and what you do. But if you're just a regular person who's going and enjoying themselves and you don't really have that many like responsibilities, you can pack light. So let me tell you what I do. I am, just like I'm team carry on, I am team free hands. What that means is I have my phone, and even as an influencer, I'm still team free hands, and I'm team my happiness is number one in all things, not in all things carnival, period. So gotta make sure I have my phone, because I need to give you all the content. I need to make sure that I have my memories on lock and all of this and all of that, and I can go back and have my nostalgic moments. So I got my phone, and nowadays I do carry around my portable charger. I like the size of the portable charger that I have. It doesn't take up too much space. So I have my phone, my portable charger. I also have Vex Money. If you don't know what Vex Money is, I will share. And other people may have different definitions of what Vex Money is. But Vex Money, in the Tingz Nice Dictionary, means money that you have on your person to use in case of an emergency or if somebody vex you. You don't have to have a ridiculous amount of Vex Money on you. You need just enough to get you back to the place where you're lodging. You need just enough to get you some food. If you lost your phone or something, you need just enough to get on a paid phone, or just enough to give somebody something to lend you their phone or whatever. It's just money to get by. It's money to get back to where you will feel safe. Other reason why you don't want to bring a large amount is because there are a lot of people on the road. You have thousands and thousands of people on the road, lots of pedestrians. Some of them are bad mind. They don't mean well. There have been moments at Carnival where people have gotten robbed of their things, and you need to be aware of that. You do not want to have a large amount of money on you, especially like say you brought all the money out that you brought on the entire trip. It's only day 3 and your wallet gets stolen. There's no need for that. And Vex Money is not just for the road, it's for in general as well. So, but definitely we're just talking about the road. Let me not digress. All right, so you have your Vex Money on your person with you for the road, and not an enormous amount. Do not bring a big amount. Then you want to have an ID with you, but the ID that you have shouldn't really be of much importance. Like you want it to have your name, you want to have a fairly recent photo of you. Actually, it doesn't really matter. Yeah, so you just your name, your photo, and you don't want to bring a real one. If you're not driving, if you haven't rented a car and you're not responsible for a vehicle while you're abroad, you don't need your license. All they need to know is who you are, what your name is, and they just need to match it to yourself. An ID of no importance. And please, nobody bring their real passport on the road or to a fete. Once you touch down and you come from the airport and you reach into the lodging that you're staying, take that passport and put it away with your return clothes. Take that passport and put it away. The last thing that you want is to be bringing that to a fete or bringing that on the road. You lose it. Now how are you getting back to where you came from? Let's not do this, please. And yes, and if you're traveling, another thing, and if you're traveling abroad, if you're traveling from one country to another, people, you need your passport. You also need your mug to have on the road. So whether you brought that mug with you from home, it's your brand mug, or you're using a mug that the band gave you with your goodie bag, you need your mug for the road. Otherwise, how are you going to get your drinks? I mean, you could get a regular cup, but nobody's about that life. After 2 shakes and a couple wines, that whole drink is going to be on the floor and you wouldn't even have drank it yet. So let's not do that as well. Bring the mug, bring your own mug, or you can bring one of the hydro packs. You see a lot of people with those because, again, it's very hands-free. It does have to go on your back, so it may not be the cutest thing for some of the costumes unless you're like, again, doing the most, bejeweling it, dyeing it a certain color to match your costume. There are options, and you want to make sure that you're bringing your room key if you're staying in a hotel or wherever you're staying, just making sure that you're bringing that, although a lot of Airbnbs now have the keyless entry, but you would need your phone for that. Maybe not. They might have like a lockbox. So different options. Then you want to have, what I like to do is it's like you can't really rely on technology all the time, and you have to have non-technological options for certain things, especially in cases of emergency. So what I like to do is I like to have like a piece of paper on me that just has names and numbers of the people that I need to be in contact with on island and back home. Now, because nowadays people don't memorize numbers anymore because we don't have to dial them anymore, you know? So we don't have to look at them. We don't have to memorize them. So writing them down. So, you know, whether that's like my mother, my significant other, my closest friend, and then, you know, owner of the Airbnb, police department, you know, whatever, and just kind of writing those down because you don't know what's going to happen. You know how many friends of mine lose their phone on the road, or friends whose phones get broken, friends whose phones get stolen, and you have nothing. And say it's that moment that it just got dark and they just played some wild ass song and now everybody has separated. You know, like they just played Run With It and then you lost the person that you were with and now you have no means of communicating with them. I know that's a random ass story, but I'm just saying, you know, it happens. And so it's good for you to have that piece of paper with you on the road. Ladies, you know, you have options now aside from the hydro pack that I mentioned. If you want to carry stuff, you can have fanny packs. And I know fanny packs are very 80s and 90s, but they come in handy on the road and they are becoming more popular. It's not like they used to be. And they even have smaller fanny packs and smaller things that you can wear on the road and wrap around you that aren't so like obnoxious as a lot of other things and take away from the costume. So we don't want that. So make sure that you have something to carry these things in. As I mentioned previously when we were talking about shoes, and I mentioned that I love knee-high boots. Now, the reason that I love knee-high boots is because I can stuff things inside them. So if I really don't want to wear a fanny pack, then all I have is my ID, my Vex money, even my portable charger. I can just take it and I can stick it down in my boot and it won't take away from my costume. Now it can't be like a super, depending on what you want to do, it can't be a super tight boot, but it is possible. And I've done that on numerous occasions and I love that method, you know, but you don't want anything in there to weigh you down. The only downfall to high boots is when freaking it's torrential rain outside and then you like literally taking the boot off and pouring out a whole bunch of water. I think I'm going to stop there and I'm going to stop there and I'll be back for Newbie Crash Course Part 3. make sure that you submit your questions via my Instagram or via email. However you want to send your questions, please send them to be included in Newbie Crash Course Part 3. I will answer your question beforehand so that you're just not out there, stranded waiting on a question for God knows until, when my next episode will be for this. But I'll answer them, but then I'll go in depth and I'll make sure to answer them on the next course as well. So keep them coming because the newbies gotta learn. And there is no such thing as a bad question. All right. Until next time, Aya, stay nice. Thanks for tuning in to the latest episode of Nice-ish. As always, I'm grateful for your time and attention. Stay plugged in by subscribing to this podcast, my website, tingznice.com, and following me on all social media platforms. Visit the show notes for all the links and the plugs related to this episode. If you ever have questions about anything we discuss on the show, be sure to hit me up at info@tingznice.com. And remember, sharing is caring, so please pass this podcast on to anyone you believe will benefit from the information. I'm going to check you all later.